Hello and welcome back to the Google Workspace Update podcast from Strawberry 7. My name is Adam.
And my name is Adam.
We're here every week to bring you the latest things happening around Google Workspace. This podcast is available in audio format from your regular podcast provider and also in video format on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/Strawberry7.
Coming up on the show today,
we have 4 updates for you today, so quite a short show. We've got Google Meet, Google Chat, Google Sheets and Docs, and Google Workspace. So let's get to it.
On with the show. Right, so first up, we have an update for Google Meet. So there is now a 360-degree video background available for Google Meet on mobile. Adding to the existing library of immersive backgrounds, Google Meet users on mobile can use several new 360-degree video backgrounds. These backgrounds, which includes a beach and a temple, for example, uses your device's gyroscope to create a dynamic experience that moves with you. And just a note on this, that admins can turn backgrounds on or off for their users if they wish.
Amazing. Wow. What really interesting update. I never even would have thought about that. That's a really... I don't do many Google Meets on mobile devices. I mean, we tend to do them on our Macs, don't we, Adam?
Yes, and when I have, it hasn't been on the go. I've not been spinning around or sort of something like that.
Spinning around like Kylie Minogue or whoever it was. Yeah, that's very interesting update. I can really imagine how that would be quite useful. So you can the trickery that you're able to perform on these video calls now is amazing. That's quite interesting because it's very funny that this is the first update, because completely unrelated, I didn't even mention this when we were starting before we recorded, but I was kind of moving my camera a little bit, and my background at the moment is virtual because we've just got building work going on and nobody wants to see that. So my background is virtual, and I noticed when I was moving my camera around, it was a bit weird because I was moving but my background was absolutely static, and I did sort of glance at the screen and thought how weird it was that it was doing that. So having this sort of 360 of the backgrounds, that's going to be a really interesting sort of take. Is that, I think you've got who that's available for, right?
Yeah, so this is going to be available on Android and iOS devices for all Google Workspace users, and also users with a personal Google account. So right across the board, available to everyone on an Android or iOS device.
That's amazing. So, I mean, I'll be able to try this on my iPhone, and there's no information here about when it's available, but I assume because there's no information, it's probably available already, I would guess.
Yes, that's right. So this one does come under our updatelet category. So that means that Google has pushed the update out, so we should see it within a week or so.
Yeah. Okay. No problem. So I'm going to give that a little try on my iOS device. Actually, it's going to be. It really shows how complex this software is now with replacing these backgrounds and picking up you as a person, because you imagine how complicated that's, or how quickly that software is having to work when you're moving around and twirling about, and it doesn't have any clue what's in your background. You could have all sorts of things, like you could be in a white room and wearing a white shirt or something like that. It's gonna, I mean, it's like I'd be interested to see what it's capable of doing in those different environments and how that changes, and the light affecting it and everything like that. It's really
or where around
software.
The world it can take you. So we've got a beach and a temple. Can it take you out of space, or where next can we go with this virtual 360-degree background?
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see what they add. I know with the dynamic backgrounds, they've added a lot of different variety on there. So yeah, that's very, what an interesting update. Okay, great. Thanks, Adam. What have we got next?
Up next, we have an update to Google Chat. So there's now editable widgets are now available for Chat app cards. So this update is definitely for the developers out there. So developers can now include interactive widgets like checkboxes, radio buttons and drop-downs in Chat app cards that are posted in the Chat message stream. This will allow you to quickly modify information sent from Chat apps, such as changing the assignee on a task card or changing the due date on a task card, selecting or deselecting options on a task card.
Okay. That's an interesting update. So just to be clear, we're talking about the Google Chat app, because I've fallen into that trap before of it actually being chat within Meet or chat within something else. So we're talking about the Google Chat app itself here, and these are interactive widgets. Is that when you do the at symbol and it kind of comes up with those different things? I think that's what it's talking about there, isn't it?
Possibly. So I was trying to get my head around this a little bit. Maybe I'm being a little bit too fixated because it says this update is for chat app cards, and I was trying to think, what is an app card?
I My interpretation of the cards is similar to what we've talked about with Google Docs and Sheets before, where it's kind of talked about these cards, where it's when you do the at symbol and it then kind of comes up with these bits in like the things that you can do, the
smart
things that you can
canvas.
interact with. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, smart canvas. All those different sort of things that I talk about. That would be my interpretation of what the cards are, and so you can actually have interactive ones, which is pretty cool. I don't know how you would. It's interesting that it says changing your signee on a task card or changing a due date on a task card, because I wonder how, if that's just within the chat or it's kind of interacting with something that's somewhere else. Maybe when you do the at symbol, you're able to pull up a Google task that you have somewhere else, and kind of then interact with that.
Yes, it's also interesting that it says, so this update is for the developers out there. So developers working with Google Chat would have the option to include this feature in their developing. So I don't think it will just be available straight away for the everyday users, but any developers out there should have the option to include this in their developing. And if you are a developer, then hopefully you will know how to develop this.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's I agree. I mean, it's something that's clearly there for people to be able to include if they want to. And I'm just having a little look at what these how these cards sort of work. I don't think it's something that we've particularly interacted with ourselves within Strawberry 7, but I'm just having a little look now, and I think it's very similar to what we have, or what we were talking about there with Smart Canvas. So I think it's kind of what I alluded to, where if you wanted to do something with a task, for example, you could kind of call up the card and it would pull the task from somewhere else, and then you'd be able to interact with it within the chat. It would make sense because it's going back again to the idea that Google keeps promoting, which is really, really handy, of bringing these different aspects of Google into one place. So if you imagine you're in a chat and you're wanting to talk to somebody about a task that they've got going on, or a doc, or whatever, it's giving you a way of not having to leave that chat and go somewhere else. Is kind of keeping it all within that one environment. So I believe that that's what it's trying to achieve with what it's doing there.
Let's hope. So this update is going to be available. I think it's pretty much available to everyone, but I'll quickly run through it. So this is available right now to Google Workspace Essentials, Business Starter, Business Standard, Business Plus, Enterprise Essentials, Enterprise Standard, Enterprise Plus, Education Fundamentals, Education Plus, Education Standard, the Teaching and Learning Upgrade, Frontline, as well as Legacy, G Suite, Basic and Business customers. So I think that's everyone.
Yeah, I think the only people missing off of there are probably personal accounts. Yeah, I don't think you can really use Google Chat with personal account anyway, or maybe you can, but you'd just be chatting to yourself, so it'd be a bit lonely. But yeah, that is pretty much everybody covered on that. So that's an interesting thing to see. Lovely, thank you, Adam. What have we got next?
So up next, we've got an update to Google Sheets and Google Docs as well. So this is a 2-in-1. And funny, we were just saying that the last update we think is kind of related to Smart Canvas. Well, this one definitely is. So Google is introducing new Smart Canvas features in Google Sheets and Google Docs. So as Google continues to innovate with Smart Canvas, they're introducing even more smart chips and a new way to display dates across Google Sheets that will make it easier for you to quickly preview and interact with dates, locations, and financial information. Additionally, Google is adding a stopwatch chip to Google Docs that can now track how long it takes to complete an activity, helping you stay on task and on time. So for these Smart Canvas chips, one of them is the option to place chips, which is when Google Maps places a chip into your sheet, you can then open the location directly in Google Maps and see a preview of the location or find directions. Pretty cool. There's expanded date capabilities, so you can include dates in your sheets more easily using the @ entry point with shortcuts like @today, @yesterday, @tomorrow, and @date. Clicking on the date will display a date picker that allows you to update dates as needed. There's also finance chips. Add Google Finance entities such as stocks, mutual funds, and currencies into Sheets. Hover over the chip to preview information depending on entry type. For example, for stocks, you can see company name, listing index, stock price, and market cap. Clicking the chip will take you to the entity's dedicated finance page. And finally, there's also the stopwatch chips. When a stopwatch chip is inserted, you can start, stop, and reset the timer as needed.
Nice. It's a really thorough explanation there, Adam. I mean, yeah, these smart chips are really getting very, very useful with the things that you can put in. Being able to put in... Interesting that a lot of this stuff is in Sheets. Or just for clarity, because a lot of this stuff did say sort of putting it in Sheets. Was that kind of an example? I think these are available in both Sheets and Docs, I think, from what I sort of read there. I think Google have just given an example of a Google Sheet in what they're listing. Is that right?
Yes, I've not experimented with all of these through both Sheets and Docs, but I imagine they probably would be available for both.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's so handy being able to put this stuff directly into a Google Sheet. I can think of so many sort of examples of this, from using it for personal stuff to using it up to business. But I mean, just straight away, like that Google Maps one of being able to put directions or find directions.
We've used something similar to that ourselves.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's like we've just got information on our schools and our customers and things like that, and being able to drop a chip in that actually has a Google Maps location that you can interact with within the document is so handy. I mean, imagine being able to send that to your customers and things like that, or to your staff. You need to go here tomorrow, and you've actually got the map link directly within the document.
Yes, absolutely. Well, where I'm living right now, I live in a new development, and so many maps do not actually include my current address. So before, when you came to pick me up that time, I just sent you the pin of where I actually live. So you say, just drive to this location, and that's where I am. Because at the time, you couldn't just look it up on a map, because it's a new area. It's not on new maps just yet.
Yeah, you're 100% right, absolutely. And I know you can kind of take the link from Google Maps and you can drop it in a document. But again, this is just an example of how Google's making it a little bit easier, how you're not having to go off to Google Maps, first of all, to find that and to put it in, but also how it's just embedded in the document in a much nicer way. I mean, it's almost making documents like websites in a way, isn't it? It's kind of the two are sort of blurring together and merging together. And the date capabilities, really handy to just go at yesterday if you can't remember what yesterday's date was.
Definitely, yes. I like the date picker as well. I think that will be very handy.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially if you need to know what the day was on a particular date.
Yeah,
something like
definitely.
That. Yeah, absolutely. And the finance ones, again, just so useful if you're anything to do with finance and you want to have that live information updating within your document. And stopwatch, I mean, that would be great for teachers. It'd be great for education.
I wasn't too sure about the stopwatch one. I'm sure for many situations it would actually be very handy to use the stopwatch, but I was thinking if you can suddenly see how long it takes you to do a task, then that may actually cause more stress than anything else. But I'm sure there are very sensible applications to use it.
Yeah, I've noticed teachers using stopwatches so many times to keep track of where they are in the lesson, or use countdown timers or something like that if they've got a particular time allocation for a task. And I think having the stopwatch embedded within a document could be really, really handy to show students either how long they're taking or keep them on track. I bet things like a countdown timer will make an appearance now as an additional chip, as Google starts to expand this. These are some really useful additions to the chips. I can really see how those would be used. How do we get started with this? I think it's pretty straightforward, isn't it?
Yes, so for the admins, there's no admin control for this feature. However, for the end users, so you can insert a finance chip or map chip in a sheet cell by following one or all of these. So you can type at, then followed by a place or finance entity, or you can either navigate to insert smart chips. To insert a date and activate the date picker, type at, followed by date, today, yesterday, or tomorrow. You can also access the date picker by double tapping manually entered dates. You can insert a stopwatch chip in docs. Interestingly, it does specifically say docs, not docs and sheets, so it may be worth experimenting with that a little bit. But sorry, you can insert a stopwatch chip into docs by typing at followed by stopwatch, or you can either navigate to insert smart chips.
Yeah, so it's a very similar method to what we've seen with these smart chips all the way along, isn't it? Either insert smart chip and then you select your smart chip, or you type at and then you select your smart chip from there. Yep, that's all very familiar. What's the rollout phase of this, and who's this going to be available for, Evan?
So rapid release for this started on February the 23rd. Scheduled release is starting on March the 9th. And this is going to be available to all Google Workspace customers, as well as legacy G Suite Basic and Business customers. This is also going to be available to users with a personal Google account. So right across the board.
Yeah, that's a normal sort of thing for these smart chips, isn't it? So, yeah, if you're on rapid release, then should be available whilst you're listening to this podcast. If you're on scheduled release, probably about a couple of weeks at the most to wait until after the 9th of March, and then you'll be able to start playing around with that. Thank you, Adam. What have we got next?
Right, so up next, this is more of a general Google Workspace update, and another one for the developers out there. So adding trusted types to Google Workspace. Google is improving the client-side security of Google Docs, Sheets, Slides, Forms, Sites, Jamboard, Drawings, and Drive with trusted types. This will provide an extra layer of protection around document object models, or DOM, APIs that are used by the apps listed above or third-party extensions. This new enforcement mode will require third-party extensions to use type objects instead of strings when assigned to DOM APIs, and that's going to begin rollout on March the 23rd. So we've got about a month or so. Once trusted types are fully enforced, the trusted types directive will be present in the Content Security Policy, or CPS, header. And in the document that we always attach to our podcast, I've included what that should look like. So this is going to impact developers that rely on Chrome extensions that modify DOM APIs. Trusted types is a feature that further enhances the advanced data protection controls to keep users and data safe across more of the apps that they use every day. I've got a bit more on this. So screen readers, braille devices, and screen magnification will not change with trusted types. However, Google recommends that admins and developers check third-party extensions for trusted types for trusted type violations.
Excellent. Okay, so there's so this is, like you say, very targeted towards developers and people who have those APIs out there that are doing DOM or document object model interaction. They are going to be moving over to this new trusted type. So it's pretty clear to me. I don't really know anything about trusted type or these sort of DOM APIs or anything like that. But it seems very clear to me that the present Content Security Policy, or CSP, has kind of been superseded, I suppose, by this new trusted type. And trusted type just seems to be a superior form of encryption and security, and it's a good idea to update that. So if you are a developer of any of those sort of APIs that or Chrome extensions that do interact with document object model, then you just want to check this update out and update to the trusted type and make these changes here. It looks like Google's making this pretty straightforward for you to be able to comply with that. Thank you very much, Adam. It makes sense that those screen readers and braille devices and things aren't going to change because people are going to be very reliant on those devices, and Google probably don't want to just switch it off. And if the developers haven't had time or the knowledge of this update to update to that. So, but it's interesting that it's saying, but we'd recommend that the admins and the developers check it out. So maybe coming along in the future. So if you are a developer who has done something for screen readers and braille devices and screen magnification, you're thinking, oh, this doesn't affect me. Probably a good idea to make that change anyway, because Google will probably sort of implement that in the future at some point. Thank you, Adam. How do people get started with this? What do I do?
Okay, so for the admins, there's no admin control for this feature. For the end users, there's also no end user settings for this feature. However, for the developers, to make code trusted types compliant, signal to the browser that data being used within the context of these DOM APIs is trustworthy by creating a trusted type special object. There are several ways to be trusted types compliant, such as removing the offending code, using a library, or creating a trusted types policy. To ensure a seamless experience for all users, these techniques can be employed before trusted types enforcement is rolled out. You could also visit the Chrome Dev Tools engineering blog to learn more about implementing CSP and trusted types debugging in Chrome Dev Tools, and I've added a link into that as well for any of the developers out there that would just like a little bit more information on this.
Great, thank you, Adam. And as Adam said before, this document is available in our link on our podcast and our YouTube video description. And Adam's very helpfully added a link in there to go through to that. So yeah, that's very useful as well. You can actually do this before rolling it out as well, so you can make sure that's absolutely going to work for you. So that's very, very useful. Thank you, Adam. And what's the rollout phase here?
Okay, so rapid release for this is starting on March the 23rd. Scheduled release is starting on April the 23rd. So we do have a bit of time, which is good for something like this. You do need a bit of time to prepare and test to make sure that everything is working. So it's not something that's just going to, oh, by the way, it's happening tomorrow. No, you do have a bit of time for this. So the availability for this one, this is available to all Google Workspace customers, as well as legacy G Suite Basic and business customers. And this is also going to be available to users with a personal Google account.
Wonderful. That's brilliant, Adam. Thank you very much for getting through that and getting through all of that technical jargon as well, because there's a lot of things to trip me up in there. So,
hopefully it means something to all the developers out there.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, we are definitely not a software development company, and we are not developers ourselves. But I think we can kind of get a good idea of what that's trying to say. And like Adam says, if you are a developer, hopefully that makes perfect sense to you to make those changes. Well, that's it. That's everything that you need to know about everything that is happening around Google Workspace. Remember that this podcast is available in audio format from your regular podcast provider. Please do subscribe to us, and also available in video format on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/strawberry7, and you can subscribe to us over there as well. And I have seen some new subscribers popping through, so we're always incredibly appreciative of our subscribers, our listeners, and our viewers. Thank you very much for joining us this week.
And we'll be back again next Monday with more updates.
Goodbye.
Bye.